Time to hang out with my sister girl. Hey, sister girl on films. Hey, sister girl on films. Hey.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, Sister Girl on Films. And y'all, we are back to our reality show vibe over here. I haven't reviewed anything reality or TV based since the last season of Love is Blind USA. If you're new to my channel, hello, hi. I have reviewed Love is Blind season 2 and season 3 or 3 and 4. I don't know, y'all. Whatever. The one with Shayna, and this last one. So trying something new. Okay, so Love is Blind Brazil. This is season 2. The host, I didn't write down the names of the hosts. I'd imagine they're very popular in Brazil pop culture. I don't know who they are, but they're two beautiful people. I don't know their names, okay? Before I even get started on this season recap, let me just say, bar for bar, Love is Blind Brazil is a better show than Love is Blind USA. Period, hands down, there's no question. You can't debate me on it. You could, but you'd lose. It's a better show, and I felt like there was way more representation of black women. There was way more representation of black men, more representation of, obviously it's Brazil, so more representation of brown people. And not that I mind there being representation of Caucasian people and blonde hair, blue eyed, that type of representation, because that is indicative of the landscape of America. But to see that all the time on dating shows, to the point where the white woman is a desired woman, the white man is a desired man, and you have these beautiful black and brown people that are on these shows in America, and they're there as just kind of like the side character, it does a disservice, because there are obviously gorgeous people of color all over this world who are highly desired. And so to see that put as the primary focus of a dating show and a show that's about love was so refreshing to watch. There's more things that I feel like make this show far superior to the US version, but we're going to get to it in a little bit. So enough of all that, y'all. Let's go ahead and get into life in these pods, honey. This is going to be part 1. I'm doing this in 2 parts because it is 11 episodes. I'm not covering all that in one video. Y'all already know that. So the first couple I'm going to start with is Veronica and Will. So Veronica is 31 years old. She is a model, and she is gorgeous. She has this beautiful short blonde, platinum blonde hair, beautiful dimples, highly melanated, smooth, chocolatey skin. Sis is gorgeous, okay? And Veronica says she is family oriented, and she is on this show to find her husband. She's not here to play. She is here to find love. And so she connects with Will. Will is a little bit younger. He's 26. Will says he loves black women. He loves black women. That is his preference. He is open to other women, but preferably he wants to marry a black woman. These two are hitting it off. Their connection just seems like supernatural. I love the fact that she asked him what his zodiac sign was, and he said Scorpio. He answered immediately. He didn't roll his eyes. He didn't do any of that. This is something else I love about this version of Love is Blind versus the US version, because in the US, it's so aggravating. Like, the idea of astrology and zodiac signs has been so oversaturated and misrepresented in a lot of ways. So a lot of American men, I don't care what race they are, turn their nose up at astrology. And to me, that's a red flag. If you don't want to give me your birthday and the time you were born so I can pull your birth chart, that's a red flag, because you're closed-minded, and I don't want none of that. And I need to make sure we're actually compatible, because that actually matters. And so when Will said he was a Scorpio, Veronica was like, okay, I like Scorpios, because there were some men in her family that were Scorpios. For me, he said he was a Scorpio. I said red flag. Red flag, okay, girl. But I said I'm gonna give a benefit of the doubt, because maybe they are compatible. And so Will and Veronica kept going on these great dates. They had a lot in common in terms of how much they both loved their families. Will talked about how even though he was 26, he was a grown man. He took care of himself. He was living on his own. He was good. That'll come up later. But that's what Will said, okay? And so Veronica and Will are like, it's only, I think, like day 3 or 4, and they're like, this is it. You're my person. I don't need to talk to anybody else. And we didn't really see Veronica connect with a whole lot of other men in the pods. A lot of it was just primarily her connection with Will. So Will was on a date with this full-figure, beautiful black woman named Samantha. I think it's Samantha. Let me preface this. These names are Portuguese, okay? So I might butcher the pronunciation of some of them. Cut a girl some slack. I mess up the pronunciation of American names. I'm trash with the names. But I believe her name was Samantha. And so she was on a date with Will. And Will was honest. And he was just like, look, I'm not going to waste your time. I am highly into somebody else. And that is really who I'm here, and that's who I want to talk to. He was like, so I'm going to cut our date short, but can you pass a message to Veronica? Samantha said, hold on, wait a minute. She said, I am not passing no message to nobody. She was like, are you crazy? He started laughing, and she was like, ain't nothing funny. I'm not passing no messages. She said, are you going to pay me to pass a message? And then so she went back to the ladies' dormitory or whatever, and she was like, I just came from a date with Will, and he had the nerve to ask me to pass a message to the girl that he was really into. And the ladies was like, what? She was like, yeah. She's like, so Veronica, Will wanted me to let you know that you are the only woman that he is here for, and that he wants to see you, and he wants to have a date with you. And she was like, and when you go talk to him, tell your man I want my money. I love that scene because, first of all, it was Will just not playing no games and saying who he was interested in. I like that Samantha was very lighthearted about it, joked about it. She also kind of felt away, which I don't blame her. I would have too, but she handled it well. So Veronica and Will ended up being our first couple to get engaged from the pods. Like I said, it happened really quickly within 3 or 4 days. And I was surprised to see that they both gave each other a ring. And I said, well, maybe this is just like their own personal thing. But then I noticed that was the thing consistently. So if that is a custom in Brazilian culture, I love it, because why is the woman the only one with an engagement ring? We're both engaged. We're both fianced. So we both should have a ring. So I love that too. So that is our first couple. That's why I did them first. Of course, wasn't a whole lot to talk about, child. They hit it off right out the gate. They got engaged, and that's that for them, okay? So the next couple that I'm going to focus on is Maraeta. I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, y'all. Okay, Maraeta and Guillerme. So Maraeta, beautiful red hair. I thought she was so gorgeous. She's 31, and she said, my dating life has been a circus featuring me as the clown. Baby, when she said that, I said, well, baby, put me under the big tent with you and call me Bozo, because my life too has been a circus with me starring as the main attraction of the clown show. Okay, so I felt that. Instantly, I felt connected to her, and then come to find out she was a Leo. Made sense. I'm a Leo too. We know each other when we see each other. Okay, the big red hair was a giveaway from me. But Maraeta has a son, and she said that any man that she meets on this show or even outside the show does not get immediate access to her son, and her son has to approve of him, which obviously makes a whole lot of sense. And so I really liked her. She had a great personality, and so she immediately connected with Guillerme. So Guillerme is 29. I thought he was really handsome. He had a very kind of a rugged look to him. He said he was outgoing. And he has been called a player in his past, but he is ready to settle down. But she was all in. She said she kind of felt some things that were a little bit alarming to her, but it wasn't enough for her not to deny his proposal. And so her and Guillerme got engaged. I didn't see their connection. I just didn't see it. To me, I didn't think that they had a whole lot in common, but for whatever reason, she was all into him. But we will talk about in part 2 how that all plays out. But I wasn't a fan of this connection, and I don't know. I didn't feel like they would be one that would make it. So next, we will do Flavia and Robert. Now, right out the gate, they were boring as hell. As a couple, to me, they were so boring. So Flavia's 28, very beautiful, beautiful curly hair. I thought she was so pretty. Robert is 30. Flavia is a nurse and also does body piercings, but she quit her nursing job to come on the show. Girl, say what now? You quit your job to be on the show? Okay now. And she said, so it's really important for her that she does find a connection and she does find her husband because she gave up a lot to be on the show. Okay. And Robert is personal trainer. The most out of shape personal trainer I think I've ever seen. But body standards are different from country to country. So that's me putting my Western brain on this Brazilian man. He could have the ideal physique. I don't know. But in America, he could probably still be a personal trainer. He just wouldn't have many clients. But anyway, Robert is a personal trainer. He connected with Flavia. They really bonded over their mothers being strong women. They are really close with their mothers. Flavia talked about how her parents got a divorce and her mother got remarried, and she, sees her mom's husband as her stepfather. Her and her father have a really close relationship. Robert talked about how his father died before he was born, so he never really had the chance to actually meet his father. So the idea of family and being a present father for his and husband for his family was really something that was really important for him. And him and Flavia really connected, but Flavia was seeing the women come back from dates with other men and the men professing their love to these women, saying that you're my number one, all these things, and Robert just wasn't doing it. And Flavia and Robert had connected. They had been in the pods for like almost a week at this point, and Flavia felt like, okay, like this is taking too long of a process and you're not really telling me how you feel about me, and I feel like you're really closed off, and I don't want to continue to spend time getting to know somebody that's not opening up to me. So I think that maybe we should just end our connection and try to see if we can connect with other people. And so Robert was upset about that because he really liked Flavia, and Flavia was upset too. And then, she kind of felt like, well, maybe she didn't give him a fair chance. So they went on another date and she apologized to him, for her words and ending their relationship without, I guess, giving him a fair chance. And Robert apologized to her for not being as open because he really did like her. He did feel like she was the one and he did want to marry her. During that date, Flavia got the courage and Flavia proposed to Robert. I know this is not a new thing on Love is Blind. Like, that's happened in other seasons before. I get it. But I felt like that was such an extreme jump from going to, I don't want to date you anymore, I want to get to know other people, to let me build the courage to propose to this man. So Robert said yes, and they got engaged. I did appreciate the fact that once they actually got to see each other outside the pods, he did actually propose to her and then ended up giving her the ring. So I did appreciate that. This is another couple that I don't get their connection at all. I don't feel like they had a whole lot in common other than the trauma from their past, which y'all, if you have seen any of my reviews before, y'all know I hate that. I hate when the trauma is the thing that's connecting these couples, because everybody got trauma. That shouldn't be the defining thing that makes you interested in somebody. But at this point, I was not too confident in them as a couple because they just were just boring and I didn't see how they were compatible. But we shall see. So our next couple is going to be Thamara and Allison. And no, Allison is not a woman. So Thamara, I can't roll my R's. Thamara, but they said it really nice. So Thamara is 30. And she is a lawyer, and the men love her. Like, all the men are loving on her. Like, she's very charming, charismatic, like she's very flirty in the pods. If a man says something that kind of connects with her, she's like, ooh, I want to marry you right now. Ooh, I want to have your babies. Like, very flirty. Nothing different than what probably the average man is probably doing on his other dates. So she was really kind of connecting with a man named Tiago that's in the pods. And so when the men would go back to their dormitory, the guys would talk about how great their date was with Thamara. And so after a particular date, Tiago goes back to the dormitory and he's just like, I just had a great date with Thamara, but I feel like she's a scammer because I think she's saying all the same things to all the guys, and I don't know if she's genuinely here for love, because how are you saying everything, the same things to all the men? And so some of the men were agreeing with him, but then some of the men, in particular Allison, were like, first of all, that's whack that you're coming in here sharing the details of your date. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And then second of all, that's kind of sexist for you to say that she's a scammer because she's flirting with the guy, she's getting to know the guy, she's forming connections, when you're not saying the same thing to the guys that are in here that are doing the exact same thing. And so the men were kind of going back and forth, about the situation with no real resolution. But Allison did have Thamara's back, which was awesome. And so Allison, who is 31, says that he's kind of a jealous guy, but Thamara doesn't really think anything of it, and she actually thinks it's kind of attractive, which I thought was odd. And like, that could be a red flag, girl, but okay. And so one thing that kind of concerned me about Allison was Thamara asked him, what is something that people will be surprised to know about you? And so we had like this dramatic music and we're waiting with bated breath. I'm like, oh shoot. And he was like, I don't really like salad. Really, Allison? That's the thing you got to share, that you don't like salad. But Thamara thought it was funny. She really liked Allison's his personality, his sense of humor. And then so when he had his date with Thamara after the drama with the guys, he let her know, like, Tiago came in the pods, he said this about you, he said that, and that really hurt Thamara's feelings. And Allison let her know, I defended you. I told him that was not cool. And Thamara was like, well, do you feel that way about me? He was like, absolutely not. I think you are an amazing woman. I think you're just passionate. You're open to dating in this process, and you know what you want, and you're just trying to connect with who you connect with. Thamara, went back to the women's dormitory, and she was crying and she felt a way about it, but she also felt comforted by Allison. And that really kind of sealed it for her, that was her guy, because he did defend her. He had her back. And she felt like he really saw her and saw her intentions. And so Allison ended up proposing to Thamara, and of course she said yes. I feel like their personalities are very opposite, so I don't know how that's going to work out for them. We shall see. But that is one of our other couples, Thamara and Allison. Vanessa, Tiago, and Antonia. So yes, we got a love triangle. You know how we do on Love is Blind. It's always going to be a love triangle somewhere. So Vanessa's 32, old ass looking 32, okay? Maybe it's the makeup she had on. She's a beautiful woman. Let me not act like she's not. She's gorgeous, but she did not look 32 to me. But then later on we saw her and she didn't have as much makeup on. She did look a lot younger, so maybe it's just the makeup she had on. But she's 32. She also has a child as well. I think she said her son was like 14 or something like that. And she says that a lot of times men judge her by her looks, and they think that she is maybe self-centered or very like vain, but she's a really sweet, loving woman once you get to know her. And so Vanessa is really into Tiago, not to be confused with Tiago. Their names are spelled kind of similar, but not quite the same. She's really into him, but she does not want to put all her eggs in one basket because there are other men there, and she just wants to make sure she's making the right decision for herself. But for her, Tiago is her number one, but she's still open and, ready to connect with other men. And so Tiago is 36. 2018, he was diagnosed with skin cancer, but he beat the cancer. It's in remission. He's much healthier now. And he says he's a romantic, but sometimes it can come off as clingy. But he is very much like into the process as well. He's getting to know all the ladies. He's very much the male Thamara in this situation, but he's not getting as much flack about it, as Thamara did. And the ladies feel like he's a player because they'll go back to the dormitory, they'll talk about their dates. And whenever the women come back from their date with Tiago, they kind of are sharing similar things. So he's saying the same thing to multiple women. But that doesn't deter Vanessa or Antonia, who is our other member of this love triangle. And so Antonia is 37. She is also really into Tiago. So my bad, y'all. So see, these love triangles are messing me up. Antonia is the one with the 14-year-old son. I think Vanessa has a child too. I don't think that her child was 14 though. But Vanessa also has the child. I think maybe she had one or two children, but she does have a child as well. But Antonia has a 14-year-old son and said that he comes first. And her husband, or whoever she is with, has to accept that, which again, ain't nobody mad at that. And so Antonia and Vanessa, they both realized that Tiago is their number one. There was no beef, there was no cattiness, like they would have conversations about it, and they both agree, like, Tiago decides to choose either one of us, like there's gonna be no hard feelings, like we both are gonna be okay about it, and they both agree with that. So Tiago is going back and forth with these women, okay? So he tells Vanessa, you know, you're making me really feel insecure because you're connected with all these men, and Vanessa starts crying, and she's like, well, you're connecting with Antonia just like me, and I'm hurt, and you're making me feel insecure. She's like, I don't know if you I'm over here crying. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'm very upset. And so when she tells Tiago she's crying, he's like, well, I don't care about you crying.
Think I'd cry for just anyone?
Who cares that you are crying?
What do you think? All right, fine.
I said, what? Excuse me? And he was being so cold to her. And he was just like, I don't know if this is gonna work, you know, because I don't like how you're making me feel. I don't feel like I'm your number one choice. And she's like, well, maybe we just need to end this. And then so Tiago goes on a date with Antonia. He tells Antonia that he loves how into him that she is. She's been all about him since day one. She hasn't been, you know, showing that much interest into the other men. And so at this point, this is his number one, and now they're boyfriend and girlfriend. This is what he's saying to Antonia. So Antonia's like, oh, okay, well, that's it. So she goes back to the dormitory. She tells Vanessa the conversation she had with Tiago, lets Vanessa know, hey, Tiago, I told him to have the conversation with you, but I did also want to let you know myself that he told me that I was the woman he wanted to choose, that we are together, like I'm his number one, yada, yada. So Vanessa and Tiago go on, I guess, what was supposed to be like their final date. And Vanessa is like, oh, so Antonia is your girl now, like y'all are together. And so Tiago was like, well, I'm just so torn because there's so much I like about both of you, and you just won't tell me what I want to hear. And Vanessa's like, well, what do you want to hear? And Tiago's like, well, you know what I want to hear. She was like, well, you're my person. Like, I'm here for you. I want you. And Tiago was like, okay, well, that's what I wanted to hear. And then he has a date with Antonia and tells Antonia he's choosing Vanessa. I said, what? Tiago is a mess. And so Antonia is like, what? Like, you just had a date with me, told me I was the woman you were choosing, told me I was your girlfriend, that me and you are together, that I'm your number one. Now all of a sudden, now you're picking Vanessa? And he was just like, I'm just so confused. You know, I just really like both of you. And she's like, let me make the choice for you. I'm done with this. This is goodbye. You're not about to have multiple chances to keep playing with me. I know my worth. I know who I am as a woman. Yes, my feelings are hurt, and I feel like I just got crushed by a ton of bricks, but you're not going to keep playing with me. And so Antonia's done with it. She won't have nothing else to do with him. She goes on with herself. And so Tiago ends up proposing to Vanessa, and they ended up being a couple. Again, this is another couple. I don't see their connection. I don't see it. I never saw it. I don't think Tiago is that charming. I don't know what he was telling to these women in the pods, but I was not impressed. But for whatever reason, Vanessa was. I don't get it, but we shall see. I feel like Antonia was the one that dodged the bullet and Vanessa ran straight into it. Who knows? Last triangle, love triangle, is a doozy. That's why I'm saving it for last. So we have Bruna. So Bruna is 28. She is, I forget what her regular, I think she's like an engineer or something like that. But she says at heart she's a very adventurous woman. She just loves to explore. She loves to travel, and she's really connected with Paolo. So Paolo is 33. He also said he loves to travel, and he is kind of like not really the settling down type, and so his friends and family, you know, really question if he's really ready to get serious with somebody and get married. And so Paolo continues to talk about how he's not a quitter. He wants to see this process through to the end. He wants to connect with somebody. He really wants to find his wife. And so he and Bruna are connecting. Bruna talks about how she had a dream that she married somebody named Paolo. And he's like, oh my God, that's crazy, because I've always talked about how I wanted to marry a woman that was from either this place or that place. I forget the names of the places, but one of the places is where Bruna is from. And so they're both just like, oh my God, you're my person. This is meant to be. So Bruna hears our girl Amanda, who is 35. Amanda's 35, another full-figured Black woman. She's very beautiful, tattooed up. She says in the past she lost herself in relationships, and she's done the work on herself and realizes that that's something that she will never do again. Her and Samantha had a beautiful conversation about what it was like to be not only Black women dating in Brazil, but to also be, and I'm using their words, and to also be fat and Black.
A man on those apps says, I've never had sex with a fat woman, as if they needed to do it just so they can say, I've screwed a fatty.
And I love that they had that conversation, because again, in Love is Blind US, they ain't having no conversations about what it's like to be a bigger woman in general in dating, let alone to be a full-size, plus-size woman and to be Black, and what that's like to date. Especially I can imagine in Brazil, where Brazilians, at least on a world scale, are viewed as to be some of the most beautiful people in the world, and a beautiful body. Hell, there's a whole plastic surgery procedure named after them, a Brazilian butt lift, okay? So I'd imagine the beauty standards there are crazy. And so Amanda's really concerned that, you know, the man that she does connect with here, if she does get proposed to, will he be turned off by her weight? Because that's something she's had to deal with. And she comes back to the dormitory and she's talking about how great her dates have been with Paolo, and she's really connecting with him and he's connecting with her. And so Bruna starts to get anxious. And so Bruna starts to talk about how this process is too much for her. She's ready to leave. She's found her person. She's acting like really anxious, and she tells the women that, you know, this process is a lot for me. I don't think I can continue this. And another one of the women, I forget her name. Her name was, what was her name? Her name was Caroline, I think, or Carolina. But she was like, girl, you knew what this show was. Why did you come on this show if you felt like this was going to be a process that was too much for you? And I agree. Like, you're having this visceral moment about this man and your connection, but really for me, I feel like the problem is that you see that he's making a connection with another woman, and so now you're panicked because you don't want to compete with another woman, regardless of what Amanda looks like or anything else. She did not want to have to compete for Paolo. And so Bruna and Paolo have a date, and she's like freaking out. She's crying. She's like, I know that you are my person. I know I'm your person. Like, we're connected. Like, we've been together multiple lifetimes, and I know we're supposed to be together this lifetime. And Paolo's like looking like a deer in headlights, and he's getting mad. And I'm like, his actions were very weird to me. Like, his body actions, like he was pacing, he was walking around. I'm like, is this dude an actor? It was giving actor to me. But I don't know, he might not be. But he was just like uncomfortable. And so she's like, Paolo, will you leave with me? Like, we found our person, we found our one. We don't need to continue to be in this process. Like, will you leave the pods with me? And Paolo was like, no. Like, I'm in this process for the long haul. I'm not quitting. I'm not a quitter. I'm not gonna leave with you. And so Bruna is upset, but then she realizes that the show was just too much for her, so she quits the show and she leaves, and she's like, I'm good with my decision. I know I'll find love. It's just not here. And so my fear was that after she left, he was going to be all in with Amanda, and my fears were correct, because he's on a date with Amanda. He's all sad and shit, and so Amanda's like consoling him because he's so sad about his conversation with Bruna. It's very much giving Jared and Ayana all over again, which I just hated that for Amanda. Amanda and Paolo are still connecting. You know, she's like really into him. He seemingly is all into her. He talks about how he doesn't care what she looks like. You know, she's such an amazing woman. He knows that he will be happy with her. He's so in love with her. She is his one, blah, blah, blah. So Amanda proposes to Paolo. And when they meet, y'all, this man is shaking, he's sweating, he looks like he just saw a ghost, because he went on this whole talk about how he don't care about looks, but then he saw this beautiful full-figured woman and he freaked the fuck out. Like, he walked up to her, "Can I hug you? I'm shaking." Oh, and Amanda's just like, "I fucking knew it. I knew it." And so they didn't kiss or anything. He didn't give her the ring. I don't think they exchanged rings. I don't remember that part happening. But he's just like, "I just need to take a moment. I need to just stop. I'll see you later." And so they part ways. And Paolo tells the camera that Amanda, I don't know if I'm man enough for her. She's just too strong, and I don't think I'm strong enough for her. Really? Really? Get the fuck. He pissed me off. He pissed me off so bad, because I'm like, you didn't have that energy when you was behind that wall talking to that woman. But then when you got in front of her, and because he had already been talking about his reputation and how he's the man and how will people think about him being engaged and all this other shit, now all of a sudden you see this woman who doesn't fit maybe what your idea of beauty, because you ain't all that much of a looker yourself. You wasn't cute, you're dusty. But he saw Amanda, and all of a sudden he not strong enough to be with her. She's a strong woman, and I don't know if I'm ready for this level of commitment. Get the fuck out of here, Paolo. So they didn't get engaged. Amanda was like, "I knew this would happen, but I'm okay with it." And bless her heart, she was so strong through it. But that really pissed me off. And I really wish they had given her opportunity to connect with somebody else in the pods. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know. But fuck Paolo. That was the last time we saw him, because he didn't show up anymore in the rest of the season. He didn't come back for the reunion. Obviously, I don't follow Brazilian social media, but I don't know if he was getting dragged on Brazilian social media. I'm sure he was. But if you know what happened to Paolo after this, y'all, let me know. I can imagine that they probably ripped his ass to shreds over on Brazilian social media, because he deserved it. So those are our 5 couples. We have Thamara and Allison, Vanessa and Tiago, Veronica and Will, Maraeta and Guillerme, and Flavia and Robert. So, of course, just like every other season, every other variation of the show, after the pods, it's the honeymoon and then living together. So go ahead and click this video, and we will get into part 2 of the Love is Blind Brazil recap.